Pennsylvania. I'd like to welcome you to this month's edition of the PAB Life Skills Video Conference. And we're going to talk about something a little bit different today, and that is the issue of voting. Now, let me be clear, say this is not a political presentation whatsoever, but how does a blind person vote? How can a blind person vote independently? And that's something that I've been struggling with personally, because I've been totally blind my entire life, and I've always had to have someone assist me when it comes to that, as far as filling out the ballot and things of that nature, because all of that is in print until just very recently. And with me today, I would like to introduce you to Jill Gordon, who is the Chief Clerk and Director of Elections here in Bedford County. Jill, thanks for being with us.
Hi, Bill. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Now, Jill, you have something very unique, and I know other blind individuals may have seen these machines, but for those that haven't, or for those that would like more information, you have a very unique product that you'd like to present to us. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
I do, but first of all, what I wanted to do is give you a little bit of background that I have as far as persons with disabilities and what was put into place to assist them to be able to vote independently and privately. In 2002, the HAVA, which stands for Help America Vote Act, was passed. And this was a result after the 2000 election, and that was passed by Congress then, and President Bush signed that act. Basically, a history on that is it sets minimum standards for states to follow in a lot of key areas of election administration, but for today's purposes and what we're doing here is the updating and upgrading of voting equipment for accessibility for persons with disabilities. In about 2006 is when it was implemented in Bedford County until the act was passed and companies were able to get the equipment programmed and under order according to what the act said that the equipment needed to be able to do. It was somewhere around 2006 when Bedford County became equipped with the machines to be able to do that.
Wonderful, wonderful. And why don't we either do a demonstration on these machines, or tell us a little bit about how they work, because the basic concepts are there, where these machines are here to help us. But why don't you tell us a little bit about how they work and how someone who does have a disability can use this machine?
Absolutely. The first thing that I want to do is to introduce the two pieces of machines that I have, equipment that I have with me today. Both of these pieces of equipment are necessary on election day. They communicate with one another and they're connected with a cable. But the piece of equipment that you vote on, Bill, is called a DAU, and that stands for a Disabled Access Unit. But we typically just call them an E-slate. What sets this piece of equipment apart is it is equipped and made in a certain way that it sits lower and the legs are wider apart on it, so a person with a wheelchair can come straight up to the machine and are able to vote comfortably there right from their wheelchair. The equipment also has a device called jelly switches, which are kind of like a toggle switch, so a person with a disability of dexterity can vote. You can use a sip and puff with this machine for someone who's maybe a quadriplegic. It's also able, there's a part of the machine that can come out and go to someone to their car curbside and do curbside voting. But today, for today's purpose, we're going to be talking about the audio capability of the DAU machine for a person with low vision or is blind.
Right, right. And, with that, and I can tell you from personally voting on these machines, and we are going to do a demonstration.
We are going to do a demonstration.
Wonderful.
The equipment is programmed with some training materials. So the ballot that Bill's going to go through in a little bit is totally bogus. He's going to be voting for a president, maybe George Washington or Abraham Lincoln.
Right, right. And those of you who are watching us that that can see, what you're going to see is knobs and switches that'll actually, instead of going to each contest, as they call them in the voting booths, instead of doing it on paper, we're going to be switching knobs from contest to contest, and all of the buttons on the machine are going to have braille. So there's going to be an enter, a write-in, a next, a previous, and they all have braille on them. And I can tell you from voting on this personally, it is very, very user-friendly. It is extremely easy to use, and I would definitely recommend it.
Well, could you maybe comment just briefly what your experience was? I know in May of this year was your first time voting on this versus an experience that you've had voting in the past on paper, and what that big difference was for you.
Yes, and I will tell you about that. When I voted in the past, I usually had to bring someone in with me, a relative more than likely, and I would have to tell them, okay, who do you want for president? Whisper, they would write it down. Vice president, whisper, write it down, etc., etc. Well, this time, I knew the machines were at my local precinct, and I knew that when I got there. However, and this was a drawback, the poll managers know about the machines. The precinct managers know, but the volunteers don't always know about it. So I got up to the booth to vote, and I told them that I would like to use the machine, and the individual, the volunteer, said, we don't have that machine here. And I was like, yes, you do. I know that you do. So she got a poll manager, and this manager took me right over to the machine and got me set up with it. I got in the booth. There was a privacy shield. I had headphones, and I just went right through the different voting contests. Hit enter on the names that I wanted, even on the write-in, which we can, which we're going to demonstrate for you as well. We have the ability to write in a candidate using kind of like a braille keyboard. We can write in their names, and when you're done with the machine, you complete your voting ballot, cast your ballot, and that's all there is to it. You walk out of the voting booth and you're done.
Right. So it was the very first time that you had a completely independent and secret ballot on your own.
Yes.
Very good.
Yes,
and that's our objective. And
yes.
Hope to get the word out by doing this demonstration today that they are available. It may not be this exact same machine in someone else's county throughout the state. It may be a little bit different machine, but the concept is going to be the same because of the HAVA Act that was passed, set those regulations that says the machines need to be capable to do X, Y, and Z.
Absolutely.
Okay, very good. Now, Bill, you mentioned about the privacy screen, and I believe an earlier shot here showed the machine with the privacy screen down. This is the privacy screen you can see here. I'm going to, for the purpose of demonstration today, go ahead and fold this privacy screen up, just so our viewers can get a better look of the machine and what these buttons are that you're talking about, and actually be able to watch you push them. So our privacy screen on this machine just tucks right up in under there, locks in place, and is completely out of your way right now.
Wonderful.
So just real briefly to a process for a voter coming in Bedford County. They're going to, like you said, go into their precinct, and poll workers will address them, and you'll need to let them know you want to vote electronically on the machine, and you'll sign in and everything just as you normally would when you're going to vote. The only difference is They're going to, in Bedford County, a poll worker will need to print an access code for you on a second piece of equipment called a JBC, which stands for a judge's booth control. It's a tiny machine. It looks this. I don't know if you can. This is a judge's booth control here, which poll workers will man that a voter will never actually touch this piece of machine. And it's going to print off an access code. It's a random number that, like I said, the two pieces of machine are connected with one another. And it tells the other piece of machinery, okay, I have printed an access code, someone's ready to vote, and when you are ready to vote, you'll go in and put that access code up, and it will pull the ballot up for you, and you can begin the voting process. So, Bill, I'm going to slide the voting machine a little closer to you.
All right.
And we'll go ahead and get started with this demonstration.
Excellent. Now, for the purpose of the demonstration, should we unplug the headphones?
You would not be able to hear it then. You have to
so it can only come through.
It can only come through the headset.
So is there any way people watching this video are going to hear?
Unfortunately, not for today. You'll have to be kind of the mouthpiece for
All
that.
right.
And let me tell you the reason for that, Bill, is you're going through and making your selections, who you want to vote for. It repeats that selection back to you. So if the headset was not connected, say in the precinct on election day, someone's going to audibly hear how you voted.
That's true. I didn't know for today's purposes if there's a way to do it without the headset, but so it's all internal.
It is
all internal.
Yep.
Okay.
Here's
Got
the headset. If you want to go ahead. Our headsets in Bedford County have a volume control on them. So if it's a little too loud for you, you can turn it up or down. Some headsets may not have a volume control. But what we're going to do, you're going to see Bill on this dial, and that dial will turn to the right. It just spins, and that moves to the different selection options that Bill can use. Bill, do you want to tell them what the next button is?
Yes.
Excuse me.
Even beside the enter button.
Yes. That one is the selection wheel. There.
Right.
Hey, Jill.
Now, and I know this is live video. Is it? It's saying 1, 2, 3, but it's not giving me a choice, so I have to.
That is when you spin it. That's the selection wheel 1, 2, 3. Because we're at the access code screen right now.
Oh, okay. So
and
the
that's a
access
number code. Yep. We're getting ready.
Okay. Okay. So that's the thing. When you're totally blind doing this, I didn't realize the code wasn't entered. So thank you for pointing that out.
You're welcome. So the next button to the left of the wheel is the enter button.
Yes.
Right?
And that is pretty straightforward. The enter button is when you select your candidate, you hit enter, and and then it moves you on to the next field by turning the wheel.
And then after the enter button, Bill, we'll just go and touch base on all of the buttons for our viewers. The next one over to the left from enter is the next button, right?
Right, and that'll get you to the next contest. So once you get to the next contest, then you would turn the wheel and vote, hit enter again on the candidate that you choose to vote for. And then beside that is previous, so you can go back as well.
That wasn't something you intended to do, so you can go back and make that change.
Exactly. And then the one to the far left is simply cast ballot. And that's what we were, like we were telling you just a few moments ago, when you hit the cast ballot button, you are done.
Yes.
You are done. That is all there is to it.
That's right. There is a help button. It's located toward the top of where the button. That help button, what that does, it doesn't give you any audible help instructions, but it'll light up on the judge's booth control on the JBC machine for a poll worker to see that light come on and say, oh, one of my voters needs some
help.
assistance.
Good.
And they'll come over and help you that way. So let's get ready and we'll go ahead and enter this number code. And you'll use the dial to do that. And if you will find number 4. 4 is the first digit. 2, 5, 9. Bill, if you want to, I know you've heard the instructions before, but if you can let the viewers know what you're hearing right now.
Okay, right now it's just giving me basically instructions that Jill and I just talked to you about. Just giving you the instructions of when you turn the wheel. Let me take this off because I can't talk and listen at the same time. It's giving me instructions, just what Jill and I just talked about, of how you do it. Turn the wheel, hit enter on the candidate that you like, turn it back for the previous. It's just basically giving instructions on what we just discussed with you.
Yes.
So it's just giving a repeat of what we've done. So now I'm at the sample county, and I'm going to turn the wheel to the right.
And for those of you, I'll try and talk through because I can see what's
You can
going
see
on.
it, good.
But you give some audible too, what you're hearing. If you feel there's something good to mention, if you'll let us know that too.
Okay, contest 1 is president.
And that is all spoken to him. He heard all of that. Now he moved the dial again, so it is letting him know the name of the first candidate,
which is Abraham Lincoln, Republican, John Adams, Federalist, Zachary Taylor, Whig, Grover Cleveland, Democratic, and it goes, and I turn the wheel past Grover Cleveland, and it just took me to the to the next contest, which is the vice president. So, okay, so the next contest is senator. So we are in the president. I took us back. I turned the wheel. We're back to the president. I'm going to suggest I'm going to enter Abraham Lincoln. So I've selected Abraham Lincoln. And it took me right to contest 2. United States Senator. So I'm at United States Senator. Harriet Tubman, Republican, Walt Whitman, Federalist, Frederick Douglass, Democratic. Well, we went, and since this is just a pretend ballot, I am not particular at all, so we did Abraham Lincoln for the first one. We're going as a Republican, so we're going to do Frederick Douglass as a Democrat for this particular contest. Now we're at another U.S. Senator. Now it just said governor, so we're in the governor category. Susan B. Anthony, Republican. Mark Twain, Whig. Cesar Chavez, Democratic. We're going to go with a Whig because we have done Republican and Democrat. So we're going to select Mark Twain, Whig for this one. We're at the next precinct, or contest rather, and this is the mayor. Charles Dickens, Republican. Martha Washington, Democrat. Let's do a write-in, because now we have Republican, Democrat, and write-in, and I'm going to show you how this works. I'm going to hit enter on write-in. Now, this is very, very cool how this is set up. I am now taken to a keyboard, and I hit enter on the letters that I want. So George Washington was not a choice for president, but I'm going to make him a write-in for mayor. How about that? So we're going to go to G, and I'm turning the wheel. So D, E, F, G, enter. E, O, R, G, E, and I think there's a space at the end. Space, right, as I hit the E right beyond Z, a couple of clicks beyond Z is a space. Okay, so I go back through the alphabet to enter Washington. And see, and I apologize to those watching that you can't hear the audio in this particular machine, because I'm entering the letters. It's reading me the letters as I'm turning the wheel back and forth. So W-A, S,
And you can see he's going through this rather quickly. George Washington is quite a long name to spell out.
It does.
But it's really not taking that much time, and it really is just as simple as what it seems like. The dial takes you through letter by letter, and you're just simply hitting that enter key.
So I've got George Washington, and that's right, Jill. You're absolutely right. So I've got George Washington all entered in. We're going to accept. So in the write-in, it says accept. So now we have another mayor. Now, and I'm... Okay, this is, it took me to county judge. So Betsy Ross, nonpartisan. James Madison, nonpartisan. We'll just choose Betsy Ross, why not? Should internet voting, and this is the last question, just a general question in this particular contest, it said, should internet voting be allowed in the United States? And you're either for, and I'm turning the wheel as I'm talking to you, you're either for or against. And this is just a matter of opinion. So I'm just going to hit enter on against. Okay, now this is the end of the ballot. So it's giving me to a ballot summary. So as I'm turning the wheel, President Abraham Lincoln, U.S. Senator Frederick Douglass, Governor Mark Twain, Mayor write-in. And I will... And one thing about this machine, I selected George Washington. Here's a write-in, but it just tells you write-in. It is not telling me George Washington, but yet it knows that I've written him in. So, County Judge Betsy Ross, against internet voting. So at the end, okay, tell me to complete my voting. You can either go back or to complete my voting, hit cast ballot. So I'm satisfied with our little pretend ballot. I hope you are too. So we are going to cast this ballot. Please wait. Your vote has been reported. I'm just repeating back. Your vote has been recorded. Thank you for voting. you may now leave the booth. So you are done. I am done. It is just as simple as that. And that's how it was at the last election I voted for. I was done with the machine. I walked out of the booth, and that was it.
Okay.
Yes.
Jill?
It really is a pretty simple process. I'm hopeful in Bedford County to meet with the support group so that, and I'll have the same machines and the same bogus.
Well, when you say, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but when you say support group, you're talking about the support, the Blind Association
That's
support
right.
group. Yes, yeah, I just wanted to make everybody clear when you're meeting with our support group here.
Yeah, I think that's the end of September.
Wonderful, can't wait.
So that other individuals can come in and practice. It may be pretty, were you pretty intimidated? Do you think the very first time I had the opportunity to meet you and do this one-on-one at a board meeting with you?
Right. You know, I wouldn't say intimidated at first when I looked at them thinking, oh my goodness, what is this machine? But as soon as I saw the simplicity of it, it's like, oh, it's not that bad at all. It's pretty great. It's efficient. It does what it's supposed to do.
Very good. Very good. I'm glad you got an opportunity to vote for the very first time independently and in secret in May. It's wonderful.
Yeah, so let me just speak from my own experiences. As Jill and I were discussing when I first got to the voting booth, the volunteer didn't know what the machine was. So I would encourage, and I just want to say this, I would encourage if we have directors, association directors watching us, I would just encourage you to get the word out to your clients about these voting machines because they are there. But truly, many blind people don't know about them. And if you're not a director, but if you have friends who are blind in your area, please make sure you spread the word. Make sure that you let them know that these machines exist.
Absolutely. There was, like I had said in the beginning, there was that HAVA Act passed, and it is mandated, so every precinct in Pennsylvania and the counties should be equipped with at least one machine that is equipped for voters with disabilities.
Yes.
Excuse me.
Yes, if anyone watching has any questions, please feel free to ask anything that you may be wondering about.
Yeah, Mike has some questions.
Take time to take any questions right now.
Excuse me? MCAB has some questions. Hello?
I don't think you're on.
Hello? Are you?
No,
Is that?
I think you're receiving,
Mute.
but you're not.
No.
Hello?
Hello, can you hear us in Crawford?
Yes.
Yeah.
We can hear them in call.
MCAB has
Matt, you can bring your chair up here if you need to. Hi, can you hear us? This is CBVI.
An email address or something, if they come up with questions later, they can email me directly. If you have a question later, please feel free to email me directly. My email address
Whoever's controlling their
is jgordon, Gordon, at Bedford County, PA, that's all one word, .org. Again, it's jgordon at bedfordcountypa.org.
I have a question.
Thanks for watching with us today.
Yes, thanks for being with us.
Yes, the Lawrence County has a question real quick.
Thanks for your help, Bill.
You're
I
welcome.
think their mic
Are
might
we
be
off the
muted
air?
where Jill is because they're not hearing any of us.
I didn't know how to get everybody to up here. They are.
MCAB has a question.
Okay.
So these people were paused.
So how do you think it went? I thought we did pretty good. What did you think?
I think it went very well.
Well,
You
A
going
question
through,
here in Crawford also.
going through the contest and, listening and then letting.
Well, that's it.
Yeah, yeah.
They have the meeting. See, they think nobody else
We have a question here in Crawford. You still there?
This is Candy at CBVI. Can you hear me in Crawford?
Yes, we can, Candy.
Okay, I think the problem is that the county that did the videoing, I think their mic might have been muted.
Wonderful.
So they can't hear us, and they've already signed off.
Yeah, they did.
Oh,
Well, then we'll just have to email her our questions.
There you go.
Full email. Okay.
Okay.
could we, just quite possibly, this is the Newcastle Lawrence Blind Association. Does anybody happen to have the email address for them?
I do here in Crawford. It was Jay Gordon.
Jay
I believe
Gordon.
that's Gordon.
You said Jay Gordon at
Bedford.org.
Who signed off?
Bedford, PA.
You said at bedford.org?
Bedfordcounty.org.
bedfordcounty.org. Okay. Thank you, Bob.
You're welcome.
Hey, thanks, everybody.
Can anyone hear us from MCAB?
We can hear you.
We can hear you, we can't see you.
Oh. Well, we can't either. We can't see you guys either.
That's perfect, 'cause we're blind.
You guys are all crazy over there.
We can't see you.
Yeah. So, who was doing the,
Right.
who signed off?
We give you our questions, can you
The
email all the
speaker
questions?
signed off in Bedford County.
Oh, they signed off already?
I think so. I don't hear them anymore.
Oh.
Yeah, I believe they went ahead and logged off.
Oh, all
I
right.
don't think they could hear us, so they thought that there were no questions. Unfortunately, everybody had a question.
Yeah, I think so too.
All right.
So we're going to have to make sure that we check that. Whoever presents next month, you have to have your monitors on.
Yeah. Huh. Okay.
All right, everyone.
All right, well,
Well, not only get
We'll,
information, but each one of us could go up there.
Right.
do the, we'll take email questions.
Doesn't help much.
No.
What was her first name, the presenter?
I don't know.
Jill,
I believe.
Jill was her name.
I think it was
It
Jill.
was Jill.
Okay.
Jill.
Jill Gordon.
Okay. All right, well, what do you think? I think we're gonna sign off and, I'm gonna get everyone's questions and email her or,
That's what I'm going to do here in Crawford too.
yeah, okay. All right, so.
Hey, does that email address that I said, does that sound right? Everybody, it was Jay Gordon at bedfordcounty.org.
I think you're right.
Yeah, that's what the email address was.
Okay, all right, very good. Okay, we're
And
going to
is that
sign off. Thanks.
BEDFRD
Yes.
County?
Yes. Yes, Bedford, BEDFORD.org.
Okay.
And so we ran over a half an hour, so I think we should log this as 0.75 for the life skills today.
Okay, all right.
All right, everybody. Have a good one.
Okay,
Hey,
thank you, we'll
thanks.
sign off.
Have a good day.
Okay.
Can I turn it off? Oh, yeah, thanks. Okay, so I can take questions and
Okay.
see if we can.
She was good.
Get this out, guys. Oh, okay. Is that off?
Hang on.
Yeah.
You really